Okay, I am in Monkey Wrench Woods towards the east end, close to where the road that runs into Teddingen. This appears to be the remains of the anti-tank ditch that Captain Whitman and F Company came across. They came up to this anti-tank ditch, followed it west until at some point they found a tree that had fallen across it, and they used it to cross, and then they came up and attacked German positions from behind. This appears to be a shell crater. An anti-tank ditch winds on west for quite a ways. Here the anti-tank ditch comes across. This road obviously has filled it in, but then it starts back up right in there and continues its run on west. It's kind of hard to see through that underbrush. That anti-tank ditch continues on. It's hard to tell where they crossed it. So this is north of that anti-tank ditch in Monkey Wrench Woods. This is some sort of dug-in position and communication trench the Germans had running off that direction. You can see some foxholes, possibly shell craters. So my guess is F Company, I'm looking back sort of southwest now. Excuse me, yeah, southwest. F Company would have crossed the anti-tank ditch somewhere off in that direction, moved north, and then came back around towards the east, towards me. And they said they were attacking these German positions essentially from the rear. This would be looking east through Monkey Wrench Woods. Teddingen is right over that direction. Okay, I'm at the south edge of Teddingen. Here is the line of Dragon's Teeth that makes up the Siegfried switch line. This would have been the first lines of defense that the Germans had, and some of the first action of the 94th Division coming into the town of Teddingen. These Dragon's Teeth are still here, and they run for miles off to the east, that direction. And back off to the west, and just south of Teddingen is Monkey Wrench Woods. This is the church in Teddingen. Still kind of towards the south edge. The line of Dragon's Teeth runs over that direction and kind of that on the other side of that cemetery back in the distance. There you go, you can see some there. And this church was pretty severely damaged and was rebuilt for the most part, and the new refaced, with the exception of that plaque, and you can see all of the bullet hole damage from the fighting here in town. This is what they named the halfway house. Halfway between Teddingen and Butzdorf. It's basically a farm house, fairly large complex. Looks to be multiple residences here now. I would guess that used to be a shed that held farm equipment. Some old equipment buildings, obviously in the back. So, again, fairly large complex. Changed hands a few times, I think. And then after 1st Battalion got knocked out of Butzdorf, I think they ended up back here and continued to hold Teddingen and further south. The halfway house. January 23rd, 2nd Battalion moved up these railroad tracks. I'm looking south, moved up this direction to directly west of Nennig. I'm not sure if this is the point or if it was a little bit further south. Say directly west of Nennig. This is kind of a little bit up towards the north part. Then E Company attacked into northwest Nennig, which would have been right here. And it's tough to see with the trees, and of course these towns have grown together. 1st Platoon attacked into northwest Nennig, and then over here would have been Berg. 2nd Platoon attacked into Berg. And once they got about to where those houses were, they were pinned down by machine gun fire. There was a cemetery up there somewhere that I'm going to try to find where there was a machine gun position. G Company went on up into Weiss, up that direction, and they were stopped by machine gun fire from Schlossberg, which we can't really see here. It's over in that general direction. And then F Company inserted in between E and G, which probably would be right in that direction somewhere. I'll try to get a better look at some of those locations. So I believe that this is the cemetery. Somewhere right around here was a machine gun position. Right now I'm looking east. This is back around to the north. They would have been attacking from that direction. All of this would have been open. None of these houses would have been here. The line of fire would have covered that general direction. as they were approaching. Another view of the cemetery. Berg is over in that general direction. It would be looking north. I'm in northwest Nennig right now, roughly. Again, that would have been the direction that they attacked from, in the area that the machine gun was covering. Again, I don't believe these houses were here at the time, but I may be wrong. Town square of Nennig. So I'm in kind of the southeast corner of what was considered Weiss at the time. It's now all grown together. This is looking basically south into Berg. On January 24th, Nennig had been cleared, and so they renewed the attack on Berg. G Company attacked from roughly this point towards Berg and was stopped, got trapped and pinned down in an anti-tank ditch, which was roughly, it looks like, about 2/3 of the way to Berg, which is that building right there. And then F Company came from the other direction. They came from Nennig north towards Berg. And they were also driven back. Two days later, 2nd Battalion attacks towards the Sins Highway. But there were tanks in the woods beyond. Fire, I believe there was fire out of Schloss-Bubingen, which is that direction as well. E Company made it to the highway, but they were driven back by tanks. Pretty much the whole 2nd Battalion was driven back here into Weiss, which is this area right here. After that, they were taken off the line, put into reserve until February 10th when they attacked Banholes Woods. February 10th, Banholes Woods. This is the eastern edge of Unterste Busch. This was the line of departure. G Company went out that direction and followed that draw. On up to the edge of Banholes Woods and came in from that direction. And F Company, it's hard to see from here, would have basically approached directly across all of that open field on up to the edge of Banholes Woods. I'll try to get to a shot back from that vantage point here in just a second. This is looking back towards the line of departure. It's where I was standing a little bit ago, filming back this way. So F Company would have made their way towards me, towards Banholes Woods, I believe along this path right here, very close to it. And this would have been the entry point of F Company. The southeast corner of Banholes Woods is right over there, and there were a couple of tanks hiding right around that corner. Down there is the southwest corner of Banholes Woods. G Company came up through that draw, kind of over the hill, and would have entered just approximately at that corner or right around that corner and set up positions there. This is all along the southern edge, the sort of the southwestern face of Banholes Woods, back towards Sins in that direction. And again, the line of departure. Long way to go over open ground. That's why G Company took that draw for a little bit of cover. Okay, so I'm at the southeast corner of Banholes Woods looking back towards the line of departure. G Company would have come up this draw and basically straight up towards me, up this hill, and entered into Banholes right here. Set up positions along this area. Off in the distance there is Geisbusch. Oh, I don't know if this will come through. I'm standing right down here in this corner. Up in the distance is Geisbusch, where there were tanks hiding and observers directing artillery. The tanks made their way over towards Banholes, and this is where they had the bazooka skirt plating that prevented them from getting any damage from the bazookas. Back that direction would be the line of departure and the draw that they came around. So I'm right inside the edge of Banholes Woods. There's a foxhole right here. Another one here. All sorts of little dugout areas, some of which may be shell craters, some of which are foxholes. It's a little bit difficult to tell. Another dug in position here on the edge of Banholes. G Company's line would have extended on that direction to the north. I keep finding foxholes as I walk along here. It's looking back towards the southwest corner here. G Company's position would have been all along the inside of the woods here, where I've been finding these foxholes. Extended, this was Sergeant Malloy's area, then up on that direction would have been Lieutenant Janlius. Sergeant Johnson and Lieutenant Weston wrapped around the other side of the toe of the boot. So this is up sort of at the top of the foot, I guess you would, kind of in the center of Banholes Woods. This would have been the foot area. Again, this was all Company G's area of responsibility. Geisbusch, where the tanks were, and mortars and observation. And then there's the leg of the boot on up to the north. This area of the woods was planted later. This was open at the time of the battle, but it's been replanted since then. Or not replanted, I guess it was planted. Again, the leg of the boot, Geisbusch. And then the top end, the north edge of the foot of the boot. Company G. I'm guessing this is one of the areas where they encountered Captain Whitman and F Company. When they got up towards the north end of the boot leg, they encountered, estimated between 30 and 50 Germans dug in. It's kind of a dumping pit now, but I'm guessing this was one of their positions. The way the dirt was piled up here, all the way around. This was definitely a position of some kind. Undergrowth is really thick and tangled here. That's Captain Whitman and his group would have been approaching from that direction. That's looking back south. This is looking back north, and then that is west, kind of along the line that these Germans were dug in. This path runs east-west along the top edge of the leg of the boot. It was just in there a little ways where I found that dug-in German position. And just a little ways west of here is where F Company would have advanced up through until they encountered this German position and then got driven back through the woods. Top of the leg of the boot of Banholes Woods. A little orchard over there now. That is Geisbusch. So after Banholes Woods was cleared, this would have been the approximate location Herman Thornton was standing when he noticed some Germans over there in Geisbusch. He went to report it, and a mortar shell landed and took his leg off. It's amazing how close Geisbusch is to this edge of Banholes. So on February 20th, 2nd Battalion moved east out of Weiss along this highway. There's Schlossberg in the distance to the south. Somewhere along here, said they came to a draw, which I'm guessing was maybe down in there, around here somewhere, but then they headed north. It may have very well been through this path here. They headed north into those woods beyond, where they ran into harassing fire. They were attacking the town of Kreuzweiler, which is north beyond those woods. They had marching fire through those woods. When they got to the other side, they were still to the west yet of Kreuzweiler, so they shifted right and then moved on into the town of Kreuzweiler after clearing those woods. February 20th, again, Kreuzweiler. They would have emerged from the woods. I'm looking back south now. They advanced with marching fire through those woods. And then they would have moved to the right, which is left from this vantage point, and moved into the town of Kreuzweiler. I'm on the south edge, kind of the southwest corner of Kreuzweiler right now. F&G would have moved through this town and cleared it out. So here we are in the little village of Dilmar, looking back south toward Kreuzweiler. After the 2nd Battalion had cleared all the houses and secured Kreuzweiler, a counterattack came in from Dilmar down these roads here. The 919th had already had this road junction zeroed in. And so when the tanks and infantry, the whole counterattack got to this point, the 919th shelled this road junction and drove back the counterattack. And then shortly after that, 2nd Battalion moved north out of Kreuzweiler to the towns up beyond and began clearing them out and pushing towards the Saar.
During the day, and he says we saw just a column of American soldiers walking down from Isle through the open field, and he said we couldn't believe that they just sent their men out into the open like that. And there was they called in the artillery.
This is the crossing side of the 1st Battalion, 376. Behind me is a water treatment plant now. But before that was put in, of course, this was all open field that the men had to march across in broad daylight in the afternoon under direct observation from bunkers and observation posts up on those heights. Perfect clear observation, and they rained shells down on them. A lot of casualties happened right here. Railroad tracks are where E&F Company came down this way. They crossed further down the river. With 2nd Battalion, E&F Company followed those railroad tracks. All the way down to an underpass, which we can't quite see from here. But then they make a left turn under the underpass and into the village of Ockfen, which is behind those trees. That is where the original site of a German pontoon bridge was, but they had destroyed it before 94th cleared the triangle. So right here was a machine gun emplacement just above Ockfen. Imagine it was very likely responsible for inflicting some of the casualties on 1st Battalion, which crossed right there in broad daylight. I imagine this position was knocked out by 1st Battalion. And there was a communication trench zigzagging all the way up that hill from here. Where that path is now was a zigzag communication trench. How in God's name they managed to get up and down that without having a heart attack, because that is steep. But it zigzagged all the way up to where that tractor is now, maybe even up a little bit higher. I'll have to look at the photograph again. And then where this road is roughly was a horizontal communication trench that zigzagged all along here back to the east. And there's the view of Ockfen. The old mill is back that way behind the trees. You can't quite see it from here. And of course there's the road that leads back to the underpass that E&F Company took to assault the town. My guess is after taking the mill, E&F Company went down that road right there, one on the right and one on the left, each taking half of the town. Scharfenberg Hill there.
Yeah, with the two tubs.
So this is the 2nd Battalion crossing site. This is a creek, comes up to the Saar. Colonel Martin said they approached through a ditch. It was probably frozen over at that time. That is Shoden over there. So they would have crossed in this vicinity. And gone along sort of that ditch and then crossed the road and the railroad tracks beyond. And then scaled those heights up to there. And on the other side of that hill, that ridge is Ockfen. 1st Battalion crossing site was on upriver a ways. So Colonel Martin, G Company, staff, Grandpa, all would have gone up that direction. And E Company and F Company followed the railroad tracks all the way down to that vicinity where they would have gone into Ockfen. Incredible. That's quite a climb. I have a nice little sculpture here now. My guess is the people that live here have no idea what happened on this spot. It's about 80 years ago. Off in the distance are those open fields the 1st Battalion walked across to the riverside where they got hit with shelling. Interesting, I doubt this little tunnel was here at the time, but it may have been. On the other side of the tracks here, E and F Company went on down those tracks and crossed at the underpass. G Company, Colonel Martin, Grandpa went up into that mess somewhere. Just unbelievable. Up to the top of those heights. So here's where the tracks cross. We come to this underpass. This is the underpass that E and F Company went under to assault the town of Ockfen. They came through here. This was a mill right along the stream. This was the first building they came to and captured, and then headed into the town beyond. And they got about halfway through, and the counterattack from the east to the other end of town drove them back onto the heights up above. This is the winery that was occupied by, I think, F Company, but I'm not sure. I'll have to look at my notes. Not sure if this is still operating or not. There was a car around back. Ockfen is straight down the hill. That's looking back to the west and up to the top of the ridge. Long ways up. Okay, I am up the top of the hill above Ockfen. That would be looking into the town. Most of these trees weren't here at the time, and you could see into town. The tree line began, I believe, right behind me at that time. That's up at the top of the ridge. And right here is what looks to be a shell crater, probably a 155. Pretty good size one. And there is a dug-in position, foxhole right over here. Would have made for an excellent observation spot looking over the town. Probably a good spot for artillery observer. Here I am at the south tip of Shoden. This is a triangle-shaped field at the very south tip of town. There were some bunkers in this field. This is where the platoon of F Company got trapped and ultimately had to surrender at about 2 o'clock in the morning. I think it was February 25th or 26th after the Saar crossing. Again, this is the south tip of Shoden. The Sauer River is right over there. There's the road, and then there's the railroad tracks. There's the heights north of Ockfen. So the story that my grandpa often told about having to observe that battle, he was up on that hillside somewhere, getting shot at every time he stuck his head out of the foxhole. Colonel Martin tried to come down these railroad tracks, which curve around towards Ockfen. At some point along his trek to try to relieve the men in these bunkers, Colonel Martin was wounded by a mortar shell on those railroad tracks and had to be evacuated. Again, on the other side of that hill, further north, is Ockfen. The bunkers, of course, are gone now.
Had space here for about 40 people to take shelter.
Huh. So is that a doorway or a...
I think so, yeah. Can't say for sure. There's the Germans had some. They had what they call
76 millimeter
Yeah.
shell? Wow. That would have been from a tank destroyer, right?
or from one of the later Sherman models.
From the 6th?
He was, yeah, it's 6SS Gebirgsjäger Division Nord. Fallen on the March 7th, 1945 at 9 o'clock in the morning. But this is actually incorrect. His name was Walter, not H. So Walter Kuller, and he was killed on March 6 in the morning when the first attack by B Company 302 took place. And this is actually one of the positions that he was in. I actually met is the base of the old bridge.
Okay.
If you look over to the other side, you can still make out where the rest of the bridge had been.
Okay.
And there was a conveyor belt here. So there was a plant where they would process the stones from the quarry.
Mm-hmm.
And they would come over the conveyor belt that was over the bridge. There was also a place for, cars and stuff to go over. But that was blown up by the Germans and was laying in the water. And Jerry Fatora, the C Company 302 veteran I talked to you about, he said when we had to cross, the crossing site was closer to the to where the factory, the processing,
quarry.
The processing plant was. He said when we had to cross here, it was very.
It's a Serig.
Serig, yeah, and this is the 301st crossing site, right where the field, the grass is right there. That's where they had the crossing site.
Okay.
Yeah, and as you can see, the whole landscape just looks down upon the crossing site. So as soon as the fog and the smoke generators were out, it was a shooting gallery.
Jesus.
In this mass grave, there's 65 known soldiers and 30 unknown soldiers buried. And I think this one, J. Freter, was later added or identified later.
Wow.
I think there's around 1,000 German soldiers buried in this cemetery. And this is the rank. So this is Panzergrenadier.
Oh, okay.
So for a panzer unit. And Gefreiter is something like private first class or corporal. No, Oberschütze is private. Gefreiter is corporal.
February 3rd?
Ja. Obergefreiter Heinrich Menges. He was 22 when he got killed. You don't see that often in Germany.
So here we are, the 94th Division Peace Monument. A little disappointing to see the litter here, but nice little monument. Those Banholes Woods off to my right. It would be off to the west. Town of Sins is back that direction. We're up atop Munzigen Ridge, and you can see, from Banholes Woods, on the other side of that would be Teddingen and Butzdorf, all the towns that they fought in. Germans were up here with excellent visibility. Remembrance of the day of the raising of this monument is a symbol of peace and German-American friendship. October 13th, 1991. This memorial was originally just down the road a little ways, at an intersection they called Potsdamer Platz. Very heavily shelled, busy intersection that kind of a key supply route. Company M, the 302nd, lost some men there. They redid, widen that road, and they had to move the monument, so they decided to create this and move it up here.